Good evening. We are live on this windy Friday night. The Colts have just beat the Patriots. Oh God, what was the score? 26-24. I believe I'm remembering that right. The scoreline absolutely flatters the game. The game was horrendous. I'll get into that with the person next to me. Joining me, this person probably hates two things in the world right now. That's the Pogmol, and I would say Gus Bradley's probably up there with a shout, but let's leave the Pogmol for a bit later in the pod. Nathan, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going well, man. Where I live in South Wales is having major storm warnings right now. So hopefully my internet doesn't cut out and we can finish talking Colts. But yeah, man, it's a windy Friday evening and we've got to try and put some positive spins on Sunday's game.
Yeah, so just to let's I will clarify for anyone American watching this. A storm for the United Kingdom is a few slates coming off the roof. Um,
Yeah, it really is.
we come to a standstill. It's bad weather, but it's no tornado season. Let's hopefully we can get through it. And the Pogmol I'll reference later on is the referee association in the English Premier League, but we're not here to talk soccer. Um, so I said 26, 25-24. The Colts first win in Foxborough in I think 10 years, if I've got that
Yeah, a
right.
decade. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Spot on.
We put a poll out at the end of the last episode who would get more all-purpose yards, Anthony Richardson or Drake May. The clear winner was Drake May by quite literally a country mile. This reminded me of growing up watching Arsenal, watching an Arsene Wenger team lose 1-0 to a Bolton, a Stoke. And if I was a Patriots fan, I'd be fuming. I'd be fuming that we lost that game. But I'm
Yeah,
not.
yeah, it was, unless this is not an emotive statement, this is a factual statement. Going into Sunday, New England was the 32 ranked offense in the NFL, and we made them look like superstars. There was just no run defense at all by this Colts defense. Gus kind of sat in soft zone, and again, I almost hate when the commentators pick up on that as well, and they make like these presumptive statements. Of course, because they've got that's kind of their job, but they sort of sit there and say, "Oh, we know with Gus Bradley, it's just going to be kind of soft and sit back." And I'm like, why? Why is this good enough for Ballard and Co? But yeah, no, you're totally right. As incredible of a game scenario as it was, especially as you know you and I were in the Anthony Richardson fan club. So for us, it's like a dream win. The guy puts Indy on its back and takes them 80 yards to win. So, but yeah, you make a great point. I bet New England fans were feeling a bit sick walking out of Fox, brother.
Yeah. We all love the downfall of the Patriots, so I'm not going to feel sorry for him. But I'm just going to run through the game stats, the game line, however you want to look at it. I'll run through it quickly. Total yards, the Patriots had 422, 222 in the air and 200 rushing. We had 253, 109 in the air and 144 rushing. That's been the tail of the tape pretty much for the Colts all season. That averages out for New England at 6.5 yards per play, where we're at 4.4. First downs, Colts 20, New England 23. we went 5 for 11. They went 6 for 11 on third down efficiency. Obviously, they had no fourth down tries. We went 3 for 3 with the famed one coming right at the end of the game. Total plays on offense, we had 58 to their 65. We got 4 sacks allowed. I want to touch on the sacks later because some from media really came up to annoy me. 2-1 punts in our favour. Penalties, obviously, they had big penalties, 7 for 88, us 2 for 15. And obviously, the 2 interceptions to Drake Mays, 1 interception. And the last stat, time of possession, we had 26 minutes on the ball. They had 34. Yeah, this was a weird game, right? Because I watched it back and it sort of felt like we set out to frustrate them. In a sense that the way you can do that, we seemed to drag out our, even though they had more time of session, we seemed to drag out our drives. But it just felt off in a sense. It just didn't seem to click. Whatever we were trying, it just didn't seem to work. So should we start offense or should we start defense?
Yeah, let's start offense for sure. Let's start offense.
Okay, so obviously the big news was Josh Downs was out and a familiar face came back into the offensive line, Big Glowinski. I thought the offensive line did pretty well.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I want to touch on, obviously, the most important 2-point play of the game. I think that I know it's a read option, but I sort of think that's a fake read option. Because mainly I don't think you get Quentin Nelson pulling into Richardson's lane if it's a read option, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, and you know it's a good point, but I think one of the things that's maybe being or at risk of being overlooked on that play is the fact that that decision was given to Anthony, and he surveyed the defense. He saw his read, and he made the call. I think that the elation of Sunday, because I truly was elated, as you say. We as indie fans, we are, maybe other teams fans as well. We kind of all maybe watching with a covered smile at New England's downfall, because that's what you all did to us for many, many years. But yeah, I think, when I kind of came down and the emotions came down and started watching the post-game presses and stuff, the fact that that decision was made and he was given the option, and obviously Taylor could have gone to the outside. And I think we often talk about, Shane Steichen sometimes overcomplicating things, seems to battle with himself, especially in the middle of games. I've noticed in the tail end of the first quarter and the beginning of the second, his play calling takes a vastly different direction.
Yeah.
But, when you've got someone like Quentin Nelson, as Taylor said, in his first year, if you get stuck, just run behind Q. And Q finished that Pats defender to make the lane. Absolutely destroyed him. And I don't know about you, mate, but I can't wait to see more of that in our future. I cannot wait for it.
It's just simple, right? You've had a 19-play drive. It's the end of the game. They're on the heels because no defense wants to be on the field for 19 plays. It just made a lot of people said this is Shane not trusting his defense. I do think that's probably in the back of his mind, but I also think he he just did something which makes me think the benching Anthony Richardson wasn't up to him.
I also agree. Yeah, I was imagining we would come on to that, but I do agree with you there.
Yeah, I think the more the game goes on, the more I realise this wasn't up to Shane, or maybe not. He didn't have the final say. It's probably the correct way to put it. But let's rewind the tape a little bit. It's obviously easy to talk about that. I don't know what we do at this point with the lack of threat outside of Alec Pierce and Anthony Richardson. I'm seriously, I'm stuck. And Josh Downs, you could probably add to that because no, I'm. If I'm being completely honest, no, I don't really want to see what a fully fit Jelani Woods can do. I don't think he's done enough before a big injury for me to say that I'm excited to see what he can do. Morley Cox, outside of the year, he had Phillip Rivers or Carson Wentz. I can't remember who his first year was with.
Rivers.
Yeah. Outside of that year, he's been absolutely middle of the road. Granson and Mallory can't seem to catch a ball. I'm sort of hoping you can help me here, but why is there just an absolute lack of, I suppose, lack of a better word, accountability?
Yeah, and the tight end room is terrifying. I think that the tight end room should be terrified as well. I don't see any of these guys being brought back next year. I honestly can't understand why Kylan Granson is even on the field anymore. It's getting to that point. And, you know, Big Mo, I think we see Mo in blocking more than we do, with his hands. But he's made some key catches this year, especially, when Anthony's been able to escape pressure and Mo's able to dive and make the catch. So, shout out Mo for really being the only one doing it. But I absolutely think that, not just Indianapolis and its fans, but Shane Steichen needs a tight end next year. And I think Jelani will make an interesting, duo act, but he doesn't need to be tight end one going into 2025.
No, we can't have another year if we like our guys. And
yeah.
We just can't afford to. Obviously, Taylor, Q, Pittman, these are all players getting older. So there's only so many times you can sit and go, yeah, we'll just roll with it.
I think on the mention of Pittman,
yeah,
I think it's easy to kind of want to criticize him this year, but I just don't think. Well, I think we know he's not been healthy. It's quite.
Yeah.
Shane's been quite open about it. Pitt himself's been quite open about it. He's been carrying a lot of injuries this year. I think a really disappointing, not disappointing. I mean, I'm disappointing for the guy because I'm a big fan and I think what he's putting on tape is excellent with the separation is AD Mitchell.
Yeah.
Because he's getting open, but he just keeps dropping the ball. And it's such a shame.
It must infuriate someone like Coach Wainwright. It must infuriate Reggie.
Yeah.
Like he just could come down with the ball, no matter the situation. We know that's why he is Reggie Wayne. I don't know what it is with the kid, right? I think I'm happy to say he's a rookie, and I like what I've seen. If he can just iron that out of his game, I don't know if it's, you'll know what I mean when I say this, but like he's already thought about the pass before. He's already thought about the running off with the ball before catching it.
Yeah, good point.
You know, and you know, when you're in college, I guess the sort of saying is that like you've got 5 yards of open space. Like a wide receiver making it to the NFL in college will have 5 yards of open space, where in the NFL it's 1 yard. That is the open space, and that guy breathing down your neck. I don't know if it's just maybe spooked him a little bit. I see the player in there. I guess what is what I'm trying to say with AD Mitchell. I can see the player in there. And sort of the last negative thing about the offense that Shane Steichen for me is on thin ice. And I hate to say that because I genuinely like him.
Yeah.
I think he's really creative. I think he's really good. But I keep seeing the same mistakes week in, week out, and it's getting to a point now where I'm like, okay, last year we give you the excuse of Richardson being injured, but I'm not going through another head coach cycle of, okay, here's another excuse for this head coach and poor play calling, because it just feels like we're relying on. I don't know. Maybe I'll save it to the end of the pod for a big question, but I just feel like we're just making the same mistakes week in, week out.
Yeah, I think you know, I mean, I'll let you kind of go with that one at the end, and kind of allow you to tie that up. But I just think it's go back to a point you made earlier where you were debating whether Shane didn't trust his defense. I don't think he trusted his defense, and I don't think anybody in Foxborough trusted the Colts defense that night. And I just think that the way this defense is playing, we're seeing Indy's offense in like such high pressure scenarios.
Yeah.
I know this is obviously a Colts podcast, but you take it to Cincinnati right now. Joe Burrow was asked, and Jamar Chase, was asked earlier, are you in a scenario now where every single time your offense has the ball, you've got to score because the defense is playing so bad? And I'm amazed that question isn't being asked of Indy.
Yeah.
Because the reality is we are allowing so much big, free plays that end up in huge yards after carry because the missed tackles are so bad. I'm amazed that question isn't being put to us. And I think we see it when it comes to coaching, from opening drive game script to maybe middle to end game script. I think his planning has to go out the window, maybe, which I don't know if is an excuse or not. But yeah, this defense is just trash.
Yeah. I want to touch on a few positives then about the offense, because there was good there. Like we say, Anthony Richardson putting the Colts on his back again. Alec Pierce, just all Colts fans, well, the majority of sensible Colts fans have just been saying, get this guy a quarterback. And I think he is a good example to AD Mitchell and Josh Downs. I think he's a good example to Anthony Richardson that you need to show in your development. Now, progress isn't linear, but you need to show that you can add the layers to your game. Because it was just, he's a deep threat. He's a deep threat. But all of a sudden he's like, well, no, that's not getting me the ball enough. So I am going to come in and do these medium to short routes, which is not expected of the deep threat wide receiver, but he's going to do it. pre-season, the only person Reggie Wayne could talk about was Alec Pierce, and this guy has currently got he's playing for a bad injury on his foot. I just wanted to give him some props.
Yeah, I mean, I think we certainly agree offline that Josh Downs is, wide receiver one now.
Yeah.
He's that good. And it's quite interesting when you want to have the debate of where do you put Pierce. I think he's slowly working his way into wide receiver two.
Yeah.
And I don't know what Pitt has to do to change that, because I don't know. As I said earlier, the guy is injured,
Yeah.
and I don't think we're getting a true version of him this season, which is a shame.
Yeah, I think it is a shame. I'll make clear that I think Michael Pittman is a big part of the Colts, and I mean, I don't think he's going to go anywhere in his career now. I think he will sort of finish his career at Colt, maybe 1 or 2 years, Chicago, Cleveland, something like that, somewhere relatively close by. But it's tough. It's just tough seeing someone, because he is a reliable target who loves contact, just beat up because, man. I mean, other than that on the offense, unless you can think of anything that sort of does really stand out like that I've missed.
I would say that, Anthony had another game where you've kind of got to look beyond the box score. And it's just really cool to see him progressing and kind of that final drive. There was some seriously good plays on the tape from Sunday. And again, he's just proven to be, really difficult to bring down. The guy is so good when he's escaping pressure. And that's what we've missed for so many years, right? We've had statues back there who, once they get through the line, is kind of game over. So, yeah, shout out to the young kid. But yeah, let's dice up some defense, yeah.
So the defense. Okay. Let's take a deep breath. To be honest, I could probably just insert some very exaggerated overreactions of soccer fan channel media and put it in here because it was bad. It was horrendously bad. And I know this was said in a much more politically correct way by JJ Stankovic, because it's an official Colts podcast. But this man does not like Gus Bradley. I can tell this man does not like Gus Bradley, and I don't blame him for 1 second. This defense is just atrocious. A 32nd rated defense.
Yeah, in many, many metrics too. Not just one.
Yeah.
Many metrics. And let's try get JJ on the show. We can have the three of us could probably talk for hours about it. But yeah, this, we say it every week, right? This is outdated. This is tragic almost. It's so mediocre. And it worries me because Ballard has a tendency to pay, homegrown guys who don't really, set the world alight. And there's just quite a few players that I think are going to get re-signed. The whole I like our guys thing, to next year, maybe to 1-2 year deals. And yeah, it's bad. It's just really, really bad. But yes, you make an excellent point.
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, the Colts have allowed 400 plus yards 6 times this year. That is ludicrous. I think New Zealand got New Zealand. Jesus, that could probably get you to New Zealand if we keep going the way we're going. New England got to the red zone out of this 5 out of the 6 first drives, and should have been in for a touchdown if it wasn't for bad discipline. I just honestly, mate, I'm running out of room for constructive criticism, and it's just getting to the point. It just feels like neglect at this point. Chris Ballard, he's just not bothered, and I don't know what they do in the team meetings with Gus Bradley, but he certainly hasn't got that defensive locker room. It is. I've watched the 2-12 Colts team have to rely on fake punts from Pat McAfee, play better defense than this Colts team.
Yeah, and I think you've got to look at well, the run defense just as a whole is non-existent. Mm-hmm. And the later we get into December, teams are going to know that, and they're going to absolutely punish it. But I think you've got to look at the linebacking room as well. I believe that only 2 of them are still on contract at the end of the season. Zaire Franklin and the guy who's on IR right now, Jalen something. Yeah. I think he only played like 1 or 2 games for us. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is a linebacking core that just misses tackles all the time, creates huge, lanes. Like, look at Drake May's opening run. I think it was his opening run. I might be wrong, but I believe it's one of the longest runs by a Patriots quarterback in the last 25 years. And it just came from complete, just, as you say, just terrible play. And this is what these guys are putting on tape every week. And I'd like to go back to your point about meetings. Yeah. Because, as you say, what is Gus saying to these guys week in, week out? And I think Anthony maybe saved him his job on Sunday. Yeah. It was that bad. Mm-hmm. It really was that bad. And, the red zone trips, I know I'm kind of going in the past here, and this is no slight on Drake May, who absolutely looks like he's going to be a slinger. And, we're going to have to watch another Boston quarterback be absolutely insane. But, imagine that was with Tom Brady, a Tom Brady-led offense. They might have scored 40 points on us.
It would have been more. It just would have been more. And like even at the end of the game, I know they went for a record kick and it was 68 yards, but they got from a 25 to, God, what would 68 yards be? The 40, 42? I can't do the maths.
Yeah, 42, 68, yeah. Well, 32, isn't it? 32 yards.
Yeah. So they nearly got like 60 yards of passing in under a minute.
And I imagine you noticed this as well, but on that play just before the kick, did you see the level of like disorganization on the Colts players live on the pitch? Everyone was moving around. Everyone was like looking. You could see them talking, and I was just like, "We're rushing 3 here." Like, okay, and then it was just wide open. Hunter Henry, boom, let's go kick the field goal, and that field goal was maybe 2 or 3 yards away.
Yeah.
If that goes in, what a different week we'd be having.
I didn't get the rush free because that last play, I suppose they had the one time out, but I don't think they have enough time to get down and call a timeout if they complete a bigger pass play than what they did.
I
Do you know what
agree, yeah.
So I really didn't get the rush free. The blitzes Gus Bradley have called have been atrocious. They're not blitzes; it's just 5-man pressure.
Yeah, and I think maybe we mistake it as a blitz because we're so used to that static 4-man rush,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just mind blowing that Gus is still here, and you think that I put this in the group earlier, but I'll put it out there to the viewers. Last 2 weeks of the season, we're facing Will Levis and Mac Jones. Now, again, I say this on this podcast all the time, but what better defense to come to town than Gus Bradley's defense when, Levis is going to be throwing for a job, let's be honest. And Mac Jones is going to be playing for Jacksonville. So it could get really ugly. And I'm just putting it out there. I hope it doesn't. But this could really stink at the end of the season.
I mean, I don't understand how Gus Bradley's still got, after the first 2 games, I don't understand how Gus Bradley's still got a job, but we're here. I want to give some credit now to a part of the defense, and I want to comment on a bit of, like, I'd say punditry that goes around. That's probably a bit of snobbery that really annoys me. The defense got 4 sacks, and I heard on media people saying, "Oh well, 3 of them didn't count because it was Drake May scrambling. He didn't gain yardage, so technically it's still a sack. That tackle still has to be made before the line of scrimmage for it to be a sack. Like, it just, that is something that really annoyed me. That I mean, the overall defense was so bad. Okay, but when that happened, I look at the defensive coordinator rather than individual players, and I think you have to give some credit there rather than just go, "Oh well, they weren't really sacks." It's like saying, "Well, they weren't really touchdowns because it was from the 1 yard line." They all count. Again, this secondary, I don't know what this secondary is. You can't play. You just can't play soft zone. It just doesn't work. I don't remember a time it ever working. Like, I think, like I said, J.K. Stankovic was saying, we make quarterbacks kings.
We really do, and it actually frightens me for Bo Nix and Denver because Gus is going to get completely outcoached by Sean Payton, and Bo has done it against some really difficult defenses this year. And now, I mean, okay, we're coming off a bye, great. Hopefully our players make it through the bye week healthy and, they're recovering. But scary thought.
Okay, so I mean, special teams, nothing of note really. Just seemed to do its job. So we'll look to, as what I'm calling it, the man in mid-off to absolute middle rate, middle of the team, like middle of the road teams. Like you say, Sean Payton. Colts fans know what Sean Payton can do. We know that all too well. The problem is, like we say, when we watch these games, I watched the Colts games these years for Anthony Richardson. I don't care what anyone said. I watch it for him because he's the franchise QB. He's amazingly talented. He's athletic. The 360 spin spike was back. Phenomenal. And then, like you say, he has to put up with, like, it's all well and good saying oh, the defense need a rest. But Anthony Richardson's coming back on the field, like pretty much after 6 plays because they've either scored a field goal or a touchdown. I'm just like, we could give up over 500 yards against Denver.
Yeah, we really could, and I think you know, Bo Nix is going to thrive in against this soft zone and this soft coverage and kind of all the missed tackles that go with it. I think, yeah, the Colts offense is going to have to keep up, and you know that is no easy task against Denver. They've got some absolute studs on the defense, starting with Patrick Surtain at corner. They're really not going to make it easy, and I think this game's going to be truly difficult to even try and predict because, I mean, Indy's in a position where it's got to go, 4-0 to get to the dance, but Denver also have to, maintain that. So, yeah, I'm almost dreading when you ask me what I think the score is going to be. I am dreading that question this week.
Don't worry, I'll save it for a little bit. But I mean, the game, it's done. Nobody's going to remember that game. Nobody's going to ask about that game in years to come. Like, it was just a Sunday evening game for us, another one in the books. Denver coming up, like we say, it could get scary very quick. I think I've just my sort of like aim going into these games and watching these games is where's Anthony Richardson more than anything else, because we started off so bright with expectations from Latu coming into this season. Someone needs to teach this kid how to cut back inside. You can't just go round the outside of your man. It's not college. I'm trying to think of any more talking points really about that game, because it was just a non-event, really, a bit of a non-event.
Yeah, it was very like 6 o'clock, wasn't it?
Yeah,
very like it's a 6 o'clock game, and
yeah.
not many people are really that bothered about it, sort of thing. And yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head earlier that I imagine New England fans are really, really annoyed that they lost that game, probably questioning how they lost that game. And I think it gives genuine context to, like, Indy's in a rebuild year. I think we all know that. We all recognize that. A rebuild year that's obviously going very well. But if we get there and we come up against Buffalo, not that I think we will, Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore, again, teams I don't think we will come up against because they'll be clean through, but we could see 40 or 50 in a playoff game because, you're ultimately relying on a defensive side of the ball as individuals stepping up and outperforming the coaching that's in front of them, which I think in any professional sport is really difficult.
Yeah, it's just hard to watch every week. Missed tackles, just missed assignments, no execution, and the interception, great heads up play by Blackman. Yeah, it was Blackman.
Yeah, it was.
But other than that, it was just complete accidental. But like I say, great. I don't want to take away the positivity from heads up and finishing your play. That's absolutely fantastic. But if Henry catches that, Jesus, if Gus Bradley knows tight ends are eligible to receive the ball, right?
I mean, at this point, we probably need to ask, does he? You know, it's a part of the field that he is just not interested in. You know, and I think it also goes to the fact that Zaire is really, really poor in coverage, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And he's also, you know, matched with EJ Speed, who is not in coverage at all, but still isn't doing his job and is almost leading the league in missed tackles, I believe, around the 20 mark.
Yeah.
When I was doing a bit of homework before tonight. So, yeah, I think the best way we can wrap it up is we won at Foxborough for the first time in a decade, and you know, long may it continue.
Yeah, that's the best way of looking at it. We will. The most important stat is we won. I wouldn't care if we won the Super Bowl that way on, you know, how we played on Sunday. So we won. Bigger picture stuff and sort of the last part of the show. Now, I wanted to bring this point back to Shane Steichen and why I think he's on thin ice. Because it's your job to know where the limits are. And last week, he calls a pick play, which draws a flag, a nonsense flag, but it draws a flag. And then he runs the exact same play thinking, I don't know, he's thinking, this won't draw a flag. Like, man, you can't, it just seems like we make these same mistakes. And I'm like, is it coaching? Is it players? What is the big problem in this franchise at the minute that is stopping a clear, you know, nobody's pulling in the same direction. And that's where I've got to look at Shane Steichen above everyone else's. You have to do something about the fact that half the team can't be asked. Your defensive coordinator, God knows what planet he's on. You know, I think he's just thinking about what food he's going to eat. You know, Jim Bob Cooter's like meant to be this prodigal son, but have we really seen anything excitingly creative that isn't just Anthony Richardson's talent? So I'm just a bit like, I wouldn't say like I'm done. He needs to go. Like, I'm just sort of like, you can't keep making these mistakes.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest. I sit on the other side. I truly believe that it lands at Ballard's feet, as I've said, you know, throughout most of the year. And I'll tell you why, or I'll tell you an example of maybe predicting the future of why I think it'll sit at his feet. So, if Indy sneaks in this year, there's no way the Ballard's being fired, in my opinion. As much as he should be, there's no way. And especially if we top the division, right? He might buy himself 2 or 3 more years there, which is a really scary thing to think. So I love the fact that you were talking about the future there. I'm going to fast forward to April, and it's draft night, and the Colts are on the clock. And 2 tight ends have fallen into our hands, or maybe Malaki Starks from Georgia, the safety from Georgia. He looks like a stud, right? They're all there, and Ballard picks a D lineman, or even better, he trades back for an additional second and an additional third next year. You know, that's the problem, I think. And a massive problem is his inability or kind of disinterest in picking up free agent talent too. You know, we talk about it quite a lot on the defensive side of the ball. Where are the stars outside of Buckner and Moore? Where are these stars on this Colts defense? And you know, it's like lottery ticket odds to imagine that you're going to rebuild a defense full of stars in a 2 to 3 year period via the draft. It's just not going to happen, especially when you're not, or when you're winning more than 3 to 4 games a year.
Like what's the saying? Insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results.
Yeah, it is the definition of insanity. Yeah, and yeah, I'm not with you on the Shane thing. I think there's definitely been some shaky moments this year, and some moments where you sort of sit there and you think, like, can he handle being a head coach? And is he just this kind of mystical offensive coordinator who stepped up and kind of couldn't maybe handle it? But I guess that's what you get when you go with a young hire who's never been a head coach before. You kind of got to watch them go through these kind of trials and tribulations and kind of watch them learn about it. But yeah, I think this all lands at Ballard's feet. And I think we were on the show 2 weeks ago where we were talking about, we used Detroit as an example about that complete cultural overhaul. I think that's what Indianapolis needs. And I'd love to see Shane be at the front of that with, kind of Howie Roseman-like backing. For example, when you look at the Eagles drafts over the last 3 years, Roseman has basically just said to his coaching staff, what do you need? And he's traded up to go and get it. Look at this year. They needed secondary help. So he got Quinion Mitchell and then traded up to get Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean is balling out right now. He's on like national media about how good he is. Like, that's the type of GM I think we need.
Yeah, it's just like, if we're being completely honest, the spending cap's a myth. It's a complete myth, and it's only getting bigger every year anyway. I don't think anyone has ever got the ultimate reward for being conservative in a draft.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm trying to think, and I only have a very small sample size in my head, right? I only have the Colts since Andrew Luck, essentially. I knew the Colts before then and Manning, but getting in Andrew Luck was probably the first draft I became obsessed with.
Yeah.
I understand it's not Kevin Costner in draft day. You can just demand what you want and you get it because you're a real salt of the earth guy and you say it with a good accent. But I can't. Yeah, no, I suppose maybe I've been a bit harsh on Richard, on Steichen, but I think it's good to have the difference of opinion. Comment from Mike.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's one of my favorite things about, coming on the show and chatting Colts, right? Because we do have these different opinions at times. But I guess let me put my kind of hypothetical future scenario to you then, right? So next year that happens, right? And Ballard just goes trenches, trench, running back, a throwaway tight end, and he re-signs, say, Granson, Mo Ali Cox. Is that Shane Steichen's fault that the offense doesn't improve?
I would say no, because of how the Colts run their operation, and I'm with you in that sense. I think this would be a very good off-season podcast And the way you brought it up is how should a team be run? You look at Arsenal. I keep going back to Arsenal because it's the example I know. But you look at someone. Edu is the sporting director. Arteta is the manager. They had their own dynamic. Now Edu's gone. Arsenal are after a new sporting director, and there's talk of someone coming in from Sporting or Porto. But the big question is, he has a different role at his current club of he's above the manager. He would obviously have to come in and work with the manager at Arsenal. So I think that would be a really interesting pod to do at some point. From Mikey, evening gents, evening Mikey. Nice to see you back. Crazy that somehow we can get a playoff spot still after middle of the season when our playoffs are effectively starting out. Yeah, I suppose this is the benefit of having the latest buy in the season is you can really manage that last chunk of the season. I don't think at this point, if I'm the head coach, I'm not bringing my team in, sit down and watch more tape. There's nothing you can learn at this point. If you've not got it now, you're not going to get it in a week's time. It's just as simple as that. We can make the playoffs. And before we end out with that, the last thing I want to touch on, I think with Gus Bradley, it seems to come down to shortcuts and just absolutely snubbing the basics. And the Detroit Lions are the greatest example. Dan Campbell is not a masterclass at creativity, extremely good plays, working guys open. It just seems like he's just got everyone pulling in the same direction. And I think our players at the minute are sort of going, yeah, if I'm half a yard short, does it matter? Maybe I turn up to practice I'm on my way in. I'm on my way in. I'll be there in a minute. No, I don't really have to watch this film. Like, it just feels like we're just snubbing maybe players, maybe coaches. We're just all a bit like, but and that's the annoyance for me is I feel like I'm watching a team and spending my money on Game Pass, not as much as some of the super fans in America spend, not as much as celebrities, ex-players who bring attention and money to the club spend. But I spend my money to watch people not ask, laughing and joking, going up to the camera, right kill, right dub. And it's like, mate, you were 2 yards away from losing to an NFL kicker. Like, no, you've not earned the right to do that yet. And I'm just like, we just seem to think we can take shortcuts to the top.
Yeah. What's up, Mikey? Good to see you, man. Totally agree with your point too. Colts playoffs start now, and I'm just looking at our playoff picture, where away to Denver Broncos, home to the Tennessee Titans, away to the New York Giants, and it all comes down to Mac Jones's Jacksonville Jaguars at Lucas Oil for Week 18. And you are right, scheduling has been very kind. Almost feels like, a cup final game, which is a very British, I guess, soccer term to use. But Denver's going to be our must-win game, I feel. And then it really is all in our hands. And, we're talking about a defense who needs to improve. Will Levis, Tennessee Titans, Danny DeVito / Drew Lock / next available man, New York Giants. and Big McDonald's, Mac Jones, Jacksonville. So yeah, let's hope we can do it.
Yeah. So I mean, that's all I have for the game. Just to end, well, the Colts. Just to end with the rest of the league stuff. If you ask me, I think D'Amico Ryans should be getting suspended for a game for coming out and even trying to defend that horrendous hit on Trevor Lawrence. What he's come out and said for me is just dangerous and irresponsible. And I've got no problem in coming out saying he's just gone for the ball, he's made a mistake, he was remorseful in the locker room. He didn't set out to hurt Trevor Lawrence, but what he has come out and said is, I'm okay with my player doing that. There was no late slide, there was no fake slide there. That was just horrible and nasty. And I think as a head coach, to not come out and do like to not come out and just squash that, and instead just be like, nah, there's not wrong with that. Hit him harder next time. I think it's just dangerous. And Mikey's the dude has a form of those type of plays. Yeah,
he really does. You almost beat me to that point, Mikey. I mean, the more you look at this player, he has a track record of dirty hits, dirty plays. I think he choked Tom Brady. I'm sure it was Brady. Might have been Baker Mayfield. I'm not sure. But yeah, and what it almost does by D'Amico is normalize hits like that, which we never want to see. And I also want to just put on record that I think it's absolutely disgusting the amount of racial and kind of religious based hate that Al Shazier is receiving. It's disgusting, and sport or humanity has no place for that level of discrimination against anyone. Just want to back the guy and say that. But yeah, I think it's okay for coaches to call out foul play. That's what they're there for. They're the face of the franchise, and just a bad hit. And I think it'll be a different episode, but until the NFL cut down on this fake sliding, and like Patrick Mahomes is the guy that's made this a problem. The way that he kind of runs up sidelines and pretends he's going to go out, so then a player will back off and then he'll get him a few more yards. Until he really cut that out of the game, maybe this happens again, and it could happen to anyone, and that's what's quite scary about it.
I mean, to make clear, I think I'm not going to sit here and say that player's going out to go, I'm going to ruin Trevor Lawrence here. And I'm going to write him out. I'm going to cause him serious harm. He's just gone, I'm going to make a play. He's seen him as a scrambler. He's past the line of scrimmage. The quarterback's a scrambler. It's just, for me, the problem is, like you say, unless if they feel a player's faked or dummy, they can throw a marker down, and that's where the play's marked dead. But that, I think, for me, D'Amico Ryans has to do better as the head coach and say, it's heat of the moment. He's gone to make a play. He's messed up. And I think that would have quashed a lot of it. Like you say, it would have stopped a lot of, it probably wouldn't, because social media can be a fucking horrible place, but it could have really stopped a lot of the hate. Whereas, like you said, he's now tried normalizing it. He's made it a pick a side thing, and it's like, dude, read the fucking room. Someone is seriously fucking. It's a game. I play football occasionally on a Tuesday night, and we all go with the motto of we've all got work tomorrow.
Yeah. No one's getting injured, do they?
it's just a good job it wasn't tour on the end of it. I mean, yeah, the serious point is, and I will save this because this could be a whole show on its own, and maybe I'll even try and get someone who's more of an expert on CTE and stuff like that to talk about it, because I'm definitely not clever enough to, but I just think it could have been better. You know, yeah, slightly sour note to sort of like round the show up on, but let's talk Colts Broncos. No, obviously I'm going for a Colts 42-0 win against, the Bo Nix's bum Broncos. God, that's a hard mouthful. Yeah, so Nathan, give me some positivity to end this show.
I think a big positive is we are on the 9:25 slot on the 15th, so we get to have a late night watching Indianapolis and not watching other teams or Scott Hansen call an amazing red zone show. Look, we are going to Mile High, which is never easy, but this bye couldn't have come at a better time. You know, if I'm an indie player right now, I'm looking at the schedule and I'm thinking this is totally achievable. You know, it's not like we are staring down the barrel of, like an AFC North scenario where, we've got to go to Cleveland and then Baltimore coming to town. It's not like that. We've been very, very fortunate with our schedule. I mean, I'm going to get killed for this, but I think if we beat Denver, we'll do it. We'll go 4-0 and we'll get there. I just don't see how you can beat Denver at Denver, have your season on the line, and then not do it against Tennessee, New York, and Jacksonville. But I imagine I will eat those words if it goes the way that it probably will. No, some positives are, we're rested. This defense was tired. It was giving up some of the most crazy time of possession numbers we've seen for quite some years on a Colts defense, and I think everybody on that side of the field could use a break. So let's hope that we come out firing at Mile High.
You got a score?
I'm going to go 27-24 Colts. I think it'll be a fourth quarter shootout that will end in a field goal.
Yeah, I think this is the Anthony Richardson game.
Okay.
I think that this boy goes into there and goes, yeah, you all fucking rip me off. Here you go. I'm going to put Boy next to the sword. Whether the receivers decide to catch a ball is a different matter. But no, I'm going to go the Colts with a 28-13 win.
I like it.
Yeah, I think you just got to be positive at this point, haven't you? Like, I don't see why we're still playing. I know technically we've still got something to lose, but I think at this point we just need to go hell for leather.
Yeah, I mean, it's all in front of us, and
It's
that's
all
a nice position to be in. Yeah, it's totally. It's a really nice. We haven't got to hope somebody else loses or whatnot. Like, if we win these 4 games, we're very much there. So it's a great position to be in if you are an optimistic Colts fan.
Mikey's saying Colts win 24-17. Clip it. I will do. Don't you worry,
Let's go. Let's go, Mikey.
Right. I think that just about does it. That's over an hour. Jesus. I can certainly talk. Nathan, thanks for joining me. Mikey, thanks for joining in. It certainly makes it a lot better when we have people coming in and talking to us. You know, share this, Mikey, on socials. I am slowly myself, for a certain reason, trying to migrate over to Blue Sky and Threads rather than Twitter and Instagram, X and Instagram, I should call it. But yeah, we will still be on Twitter as well and X, the UK Colts fan stuff. So just share it on there. And like I say, clip it. The Colts are going to win and to go 4-0. We're winning the Super Bowl. I don't know why. I don't know why we're kidding ourselves. Okay, just I know I was going to end it. I know I was going to end it, but just if we win the Super Bowl, no, that's a very, very big if. But if we go on to have an amazing season and win the Super Bowl with this defense, surely Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson go down as the greatest quarterback head coach pairing of all time.
And Gus Bradley gets a statue outside Lucas Oil Stadium.
Mikey Giant, so 7 vibes.
Yeah, absolutely, Mikey.
Gus Bradley's statue outside Lucas Oil Stadium is just the perfect place to end this show. Like I say, thanks for joining. See you all later.